All right, guys, we're live. I have with me Mike Ristano from the Lone Dawg Podcast. Mike, what's going on?
What is going on this Friday night, my friend?
Yes, late Friday night, Browns off-season, deep off-season
Drama,
chat. Yeah, and drama,
drama,
absolutely.
drama on a Friday.
Before we get started, guys, I want to say thank you again to everybody who's on the or supporting us via Patreon. So all those names on the very bottom that are going across, if you want your name on there, visit patreon.com/browniepostgame. And also, we've got some. Oh, there it is. It's over on this side. Some different tiers on there. If you want to get your logo, if you're a small business, anything like that, you want to have your logo appearing right in the center there. We've got a tier for that. So if you guys happen to be having any painting needs and you're in the greater Cleveland area, retail, or I guess like not retail, but that would be commercial or residential, I should say, reach out to Greg Tracy. Greg's one of our loyal community members, and he works for Certa Pro, and he's got his phone number that appears right there. So thank you guys very much. All right, some off-season chat, some off-season things we got going on. First things first, Mike, what are your thoughts on Mr. Kareem Hunt not seeming to keep his nose clean?
Yeah, so
How are we feeling about
I
that?
mean, this was a conversation. This started off the crazy day on Brown, or I should say, in Brown's land on Brown's Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. I get all sides of the story. I understand. Hey, this is something that eventually is going to be legal. It's legal in some states already. Major League Baseball doesn't test for it, and that's
Yep.
fine and dandy. But unfortunately, right now, today, on January, what is today, the 24th, 2020, the NFL still tests for that.
Yep.
So it's a thing. And, we're not talking about, you know, a guy that's never been in trouble that, was driving in his dad's car, his mom's car, his car, whoever's car, and got pulled over for a routine stop, was searched because they said they smelled, weed in the air, whatnot. And then they found a substance. We're talking about a guy that was suspended last year for 7 games for, you know, abuse, hitting a woman. I mean,
Not a good
that's
thing,
kicked her. Not good.
right?
So, I mean, at that point, you're lucky you're back in the league. We saw what happened to Ray Rice. So you're back in the league, and I mean, we're not even a month into the off season,
Yep.
and you're out driving in a car with weed in a bag. And I get it. If indeed it was his mom's car and it was somebody else's backpack, that's fine. But to end my little rant, if you've been in that situation and you are under scrutiny and all eyes are on you, then you best believe that if your family is into different substances or whatnot,
Check the
before you
car.
get in their vehicle, right, and you go on the road, check the car. I mean, it's not like it was, tucked underneath the back seat. I mean,
Yep.
from the way it was described, it was on the back seat. So that's where I'm at with it. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen, but what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts initially was confusion because the reports coming out when it went live was that it might have been his dad because his dad is the
Yep.
same name. So
Yep.
they were like, is it? And then the birthdays that were on the police report, some people were looking at police reports and they were seeing that his dad was literally cited for the exact same thing on the same day just last year. So people were like, no, it was his dad, it wasn't him. And
Crazy.
then other people were like, no, the actual official report has the real birthday if you look at today. So I was super confused. I'm like, I don't know whose news is accurate. But when it
Yeah.
was ultimately found out that it was Kareem, it was 27. My
Yeah.
thoughts were that the dude just has to make better decisions, and
Agreed.
we've been through knucklehead players here. Most recently, guys that we held on to, knucklehead players on like the Johnnies of the world that we cut bait. But I mean, we
Yep.
gave guys a lot of A lot of second chances. Callaway we gave second chance to, Josh Gordon so many times. And for a guy like Kareem Hunt, I think that with all the criticism that's out there of the bad decisions he's made so far in his career, this is just another one of those things. And I really wish that these athletes had better it's like personal advisors, like life type advisors, because they're most of them, or at least the star players, they're multimillionaires. I don't know what Kareem Hunt's contract situation looks like, but if he's not a multimillionaire right now, he's holding a lottery ticket that will be cashed in as soon as he is an unrestricted free agent. So if he makes it that far, right, without another issue, but everything you were saying is true, that it's like, hey, look, right now it's an illegal substance. It is frowned upon by the NFL, unlike the NBA and other professional sports that are out there. It's something that the NFL cares about. I think that they need to get with the times and realize that this is a really, really dumb thing to care about. But on the flip side, I tweeted this out earlier. I was confused as to why the man's car was being searched in the first place. People were saying that there was the smell of marijuana came out, and then other people were like, well, how is this cop smelling 2 little tiny grains of marijuana in the car? It doesn't mean he was smelling the actual marijuana that was in the car. It could have been a musk. Somebody might have smoked in it recently. Who knows?
Right.
The good news was Kareem himself wasn't cited for DWI. He wasn't arrested. There was nothing. It was just like part of the report that there was a substance that was potentially involved, right? So that's the kind of good news. This should be another wake up call for Kareem Hunt, and it should be something that he looks at and goes, dude, you already have your lottery ticket. You're holding your lottery ticket, the winning ticket. And it already got like half of it, or like the top part of it already got ripped off, but you can still see the numbers. So it still qualifies. You can still cash it in. But like now he just like dropped it in like a puddle. So like he's got to shake it off, dry it out.
Hope that number still shows.
I hope the numbers so. Yeah, it's like these guys are just they're just playing with fire, and from what I've seen with Kareem Hunt, I think he's a super nice guy. I think that he seems to be a genuinely good human being. Probably just didn't have a lot of good. I mean, judging by like his father's situation, obviously didn't have a good role model there growing up. But I really just hope he gets his act together, because I want to see Chubb and Hunt go absolutely nuts. Although people were criticizing me because obviously I'm biased a little bit in this, but I think at the end of the day, my overall opinion is the dude has got to make better life choices, or that ticket is going to go, he's going to be an XFLer like Antonio Callaway,
And if you look at, I guess it was a couple days after Stefanski got the job, and I mean, one of the first things he said, besides the fact that he watched the tape and he thought, obviously Baker for him is great, he's accurate, he already sees stuff that he can work on, which is great. Mm-hmm. But then if you remember, the second thing that he said was he was extremely excited watching the tape to work with Hunt and Chubb out of the backfield.
Yep.
And do I think the Browns will cut him? No. Do I think that it hurts the value of the tender if that's what they were looking for? I think that it does. But at the same time, then you got a new guy in the building. So you don't have John Dorsey, who is in his corner, and you don't have, and Dorsey was a guy that liked to take chances. And now, you flip the script, and now you've got a new regime in there.
Yep. And
you've got a guy that's following that act, which we know how that act looked last year. So that Stefanski he's looking to build a certain type of culture. I know we've heard that 1,000 times, in the past 20 some years. But I mean, you listen to the guy speak, he's intelligent. You could tell that he demands in a quiet kind of assassin kind of way. That's the way I saw him as being a disciplinarian kind of guy, but one of those quiet assassin types. So, I mean, we don't know what he's thinking right now because this could be who knows? This could be a situation where he does make what's the word I'm looking for? I'm at a lost word right now, but an example. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Makes an example of this is not something that's going to be tolerated. And I don't think that's what's going to happen. But hey, if it did, would it be surprising? I don't think so.
No, yeah, it wouldn't be surprising. It would be disappointing, but you're right. Like it could, depending upon what kind of guy he is. I think Stefanski's not a dumb guy. I think
No.
out of all the things that can be said about Kevin Stefanski, the last thing on that list is that he's unintelligent. And I think that
Correct.
he's been around the league long enough. He's been around the league, what, like 15, 14 years? Right?
14 with Vikings. Yeah.
So he knows that you got to win in this league to keep your job. And you're not going to win in this league if you don't have talent. And Kareem Hunt's got talent.
Got talent.
And the good thing about this is a guy who led the NFL running a couple seasons ago. And he is not expecting to have to carry and shoulder the load because that we have a 1-2 punch there. And he's honestly Robin to Nick Chubb's Batman. So he's in a great position to just sit back, be productive, and then cash his check next year when his completely unrestricted free agent timing comes up. Just keep your nose clean, dude. That's all you got to do.
And another thing that we don't know is I'm certain that the NFL is going to test him. There's no question. So
Yeah.
I guess that's the other part to this is the fact that hey,
Now you're on
this
the radar.
happened. Right, he can get arrested for anything. There were no charges for that portion of it. He just got a speeding ticket, but the NFL knows. So, they're not stupid because I mean they've seen these things 1,000 times. Someone gets caught with that. Hey, but this is our rule, and I'm not saying that it's right, wrong, or indifferent. But in today on this date, you cannot do it in the NFL. And at that point, if they test him, then you just got to hope that story was the right story. Because then all bets are off, obviously, if he were to get tested and
Yeah, I
came
mean,
back.
if he gets tested and he gets busted for it, then that's it. Then at least you can go, hey, we're making an example of this guy. Don't mess up. Don't make decisions like this. Because it hurts the team.
Correct.
I do feel like we probably have an obligation to him. We have an obligation to the team and to the fans to not overreact to this. Because again, we don't know all the facts about the situation. He could be like a guy who's never done a drug or consumed
Right, in his life. Who knows?
And he might just be like, look, I just was in the wrong car at the wrong time. Yeah, I was speeding. But I mean, dude, I got pulled over twice in like a 2-week period just driving to get my daughter from preschool. You can get pulled over for whatever. It's just his fatal mistake there was just having driving a little bit too fast in a car that smells like weed that happens to have weed in several places found within it.
And the funny part about it too is, and we'll just use the Vikings for obvious reasons, but I mean, if something like that happens to a Viking player, their fan base is just like, oh, okay, well, it happened, hopefully everything will work out. Who cares?
Sure.
But it happened to us. we've lived through Josh Gordon. We've lived through Antonio Callaway. It's not mine. It's not mine. It's not mine. The guy's in the XFL now. I don't even know if he made the team. I don't know if he got cut. I'm assuming he made the team. But so for us as Browns fans, it's not hard to go, here we go again, as opposed to, like I said, if it was something that happened to the Vikings or, the Eagles franchise or something like that, where that stuff doesn't happen on the regular as it does in Berea, unfortunately.
Yeah, and on top of that, it's like, as we Browns conspiracy theorists go, we obviously don't want to give the NFL any other reason to really just lay into us. So, and don't hand it to them on a silver platter like that. Like,
licking their chops for the next one.
We got some. Greg Tracy in chat says hopefully Chubb can take Hunt under his wing, keep him out of trouble. I think Nick Chubb. Number one, he's down here in Florida right now, so he's not hanging out with him in this moment. I understand what Greg is trying to say though. Like, hopefully they can just hang out together. Nick Chubb is just a very special human being in so many ways, and but Kareem Hunt's from Cleveland. He's doing his thing at home, and he doesn't have the best track record of hanging out with the highest of character people. So whereas I think Nick Chubb's is kind of a different situation. So if they can hang out and be together, but I think at this point, like, these are grown men. Even though they're 23 years old, they got a lot of money, they got a lot of fame, they got a lot of stuff. They are Kareem Hunt's in the hometown. He's gonna do things. Hopefully this is his last wake up call. Speaking of people in Florida, with the Pro Bowl situation going on, I'm sure you saw the dodgeball stuff that Jarvis had. So that's fun. Who knew that Jarvis could catch round objects that are thrown at him?
O'Houlihan, wasn't that his name?
Patches, yeah. He could dodge a wrench. He could dodge a ball.
Dodge a ball.
It's funny. You throw a round object at Jarvis fast. He's gonna catch the ball. He's gonna catch it. So that's why he's just like.
The best part is he had the ball and he was like, "Yeah, screw it." He just rolled it away. It was like, "Yeah, somebody throw it at me because I'm gonna catch it and you're going down."
Yeah, you gotta throw it at that man's feet. If you're gonna throw, if you're gonna try to knock out Jarvis Landry, throw it at his feet, make him jump over it. Get him off balance a little bit, and then have the other guy, again, throw it low, make him go down for it. Jeez.
I love that you were strategizing right now on if anybody's listening and they need to learn how to play dodgeball really fast. Mike's giving you all pointers you need right now.
If I'm like, who was it? Who's the last guy who was throwing it at him? It was like Devonta Adams or something I can't remember who was throwing it at him, but. Man, you just don't throw it as like in the general, from the knees up. That's he could do that with his eyes closed probably. And then you had the other skills competition that I think was actually even more interesting was the Lamar Jackson was his performance at the quote unquote quarterback skills competition. And whereas two guys, Jarvis Landry and Devontae Adams, actually who aren't quarterbacks, last time I checked, they are not quarterbacks. They were able to perform and score more points than Lamar Jackson's 2 points. He got it in like the round two, like 1-pointers that were closest to him.
Barely, like he skinned it.
Yeah, and dude,
not hit the broadside of a barn. Couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
When he was throwing those towards the 4 and 5 pointers. Like I think he got pretty close to the 4, and then he wouldn't go.
Well, he was 10 feet shy though. Wasn't the 4 the one where you're like, oh, I think it's gonna hit it, and then it came up like 4 feet shy?
Yes, yeah, twice. Well, once he missed to the left, and the other one it was just like again 4. How do you miss short?
Did you see the other skill competition where they had the guys that were catching the ball?
Yes, yeah, and I think Jarvis won that too, right?
Well, I saw Russell Wilson and I saw Lamar, and Russell had it was funny because it was deceiving because Russell had 16 points and I think Lamar had I can't remember exactly what it was. nobody quote me, but I think it was between 10 and 12.
Okay.
But the difference was Wilson was just nailing like the twos, you know what I mean? Like, and then
doink,
hit like a
doink.
5, but he was just methodical, like just.
Yeah.
And Lamar was like throwing like 4 feet over like the whole display, but then eventually like he hit a 5, and then it was sort of like the blind squirrel getting a nut, then like he hit another 5, like he barely got that one, so like that was his 10. Like the 5 feet, or I should say it's taller than that, like the 15 feet off the ground, that would be like, at a receiver catching, in front of his face, so to speak. Not even in the vicinity. Not even in the vicinity.
It was like I was watching it and I thought they were kidding. I was like, no, there's no way. And then it just started it was getting worse and worse and worse for Lamar till it was finally like, okay, cool, it's over. I can stop doing this.
And I know what, and I'm not saying it's identical, and I'm not comparing the two guys because obviously we know what Lamar did this year, and he had a fabulous year. So
had a hell of a year.
We're not taking that away from him, but I've never really, except for the combine, but that was a couple years ago. But I've never just watched him throw, and watching him throw and like his windup, it was like a better version of Tim Tebow.
Yeah,
that long, deliberate. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and you know what the thing is? Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, that's all I had.
Well, when I was watching him go through that skills competition, and it seemed like his technique, his form was getting worse as he was trying to even sidearm him just to get even closer to it. I mean, he has a throwing motion that's like, it was just never corrected. No. It was with all of the athletic ability. I mean, he has a high school type delivery, and no coach ever decided to like, hey, let's work on this delivery. Because if you can actually throw with your athletic ability, you're going to go far. And apparently it was just like, well, screw it. I'm just going to be athletic, and that'll take me to the promised land. Which, by the way, so far it has. So I don't don't blame them, but he's never going to be a complete quarterback. Is he a running back? No. He's not a wide receiver. All right, he's a quarterback, but he's never going to be a complete quarterback. But it reminds me of, I think Kosar made the Pro Bowl twice. Kosar made the Pro Bowl in 87 and 89, and I don't know which year this was, but I remember a story where they had, and it was on one of the YouTube videos. It may have been somebody, the old quarterbacks talking about Bernie Kosar, like Elway and Marino and Jim Kelly and all those guys, and they did like sort of like a quarterback competition. It was similar to that, but it was very archaic compared to like this ridiculous thing with like smoke coming out every time they hit something. It was basically the equivalent of like they took a tire and swung it back and forth, and they were like, throw the ball through it. And whatever the competition was, they had some quarterbacks that hit it, but nobody was perfect with it except for Bernie Kosar. Kosar hit it every time, right down the middle, and it showed how insanely accurate that guy was. And it's still to this day, if you ask my dad, like, who's the most accurate quarterback you've ever seen, now the delivery, how it looked, how it got there, the different the angle of which it got there wasn't necessarily the right thing to match, but yeah, he was one of the most accurate quarterbacks of all time, and it was almost like Bernie's superpower was his accuracy, and that's one of the things that I constantly, when I go back, when I make hype videos and stuff like that, and I have to go grab, an old touchdown or something like that from the past.
Yeah.
One of the things that I, when I go back and look at it, because I was, in 86, I was 6 years old. 86, I was 6. Right. 87, I was 7, right? So, and Bernie started getting beat up towards like the 89, 90, Bernie was getting real beat up. So, but the good Bernie Kosar, the 86, 87, 88 Kosar years,
I remember. Yeah.
go back and you look at those highlights. It was just, I mean, he was one of the top QBs in the game with talent all around it and an offensive line that could block. And then 1989 happened and everybody retired. But yeah, I don't think I won't be attending the Pro Bowl. I won't be giving them any of my patronage either. It's just another event here in Florida. To be honest, like the Central Florida people, like it's not promoted at all locally.
Really?
At all. Like you would have no idea the Pro Bowl is going on if I wasn't like on Twitter and saw this stuff. So it's
funny. I don't know if
hilarious.
You saw, Paul Brown had a little poll up, or I don't even know if it was a poll, it was just a tweet saying, "Hey, what do you guys think about having the Pro Bowl in London?"
Mm-hmm.
And for me, growing up through the golden years of NFL football, like to me, the Pro Bowl should have never left Hawaii, and it should always be for me the week after the Super Bowl, like it used to be. So the guys that
are playing in the damn Super Bowl
are able to take advantage of essentially the free vacation to Hawaii. Not like any of these guys really need an all expenses paid vacation, but hey, you were a Pro Bowl player because of a reason. So yeah, I mean obviously everybody wants to play in the big game,
mm-hmm.
and that's the best part. But I mean you should still be able to play in essentially the All-Star game and hang out with your peers from around the league. I think anyway. That's my take. But I don't know if we'll ever get back there. But there's a lot of other things I think that they need to take care of in the NFL, starting with the officiating before we even worry about where the Pro Bowl being played and when.
100%.
That's yeah.
Well, hey guys. So just some other quick thing of news. I reached out to my contact at Homage, and we are good to go giving away T-shirts in the off season as well. So nice. We're gonna do we can give out 2. Right? So the first giveaway we're gonna do is gonna be just for the Patreon guys. So I know Greg is here. I saw Jason. Who else is in here that I saw? Derek is here. So anybody who's one of the Patreon guys, we're gonna just do a really quick. I'm just gonna do like we usually do, 1 to 100. I'm gonna type in a number, and if you're one of the Patreon guys who's in here, Gary Washington's here as well. All right, Gary, you're in it. So basically, you've got like a 1 in 4 chance, I think, because the Patreon people that are currently viewing. Just type in a number from 1 to 100. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in my number now. And whoever gets closest to it will win the Homage T-shirt of your choice. So go ahead and type in your number. Type your number now. Bing. Okay. Derek, you got your number. I saw the 24 that's in there. So you're in. Yeah, so we'll give away one to the Patreon people, and then after that, we'll give one out to everybody who happens to be in chat. Nice. So it's free T-shirt Friday on the Brownie Post Game YouTube live channel.
Can't beat it.
Yeah, you can't beat it. My personal thoughts on the Pro Bowl. Yeah, I guess I never cared about it. The only professional All-Star games I ever really cared about personally were the Major League Baseball All-Star games in the 80s.
Even the early 90s was solid.
Those players wanted to win that game. It was almost like the President's Cup now with in golf, where it's about pride. It's like the Olympics. It's about winning for your country, stuff like that.
Look at Pete Rose. Speaking of Cleveland, I mean, he ruined Ray Fosse's career over an All-Star game.
Right. I mean, he took that crap seriously.
End of career, essentially.
It was, and back in the 80s with the Major League Baseball All-Star game, it was so, it was kind of before or at least ESPN didn't get huge yet. There was no like baseball tonight. There was no any of that stuff. You basically had like in Pennsylvania where I grew up, I had Channel 9, so I got to watch the Mets. That's why I'm a Mets fan.
WOR.
Yeah.
Right? WOR?
I think it was WR, yeah. And yeah, so you everybody who's in here is like, well, you're from Pennsylvania, you live in Florida, you're a Browns fan, you're also a Mets. I'm a very eclectic sports fan. I will tell you one thing: I'm not a fan of really any team in Pennsylvania. I can tell you that. I don't know why. I just never gravitated to any team. But yeah, so we had that, and we got to watch the Mets games when they were on. Then eventually, like TBS came, so we got the Braves, and then that kind of thing too. But that's like how you got to watch your sports, and then ESPN started getting bigger, and you got the highlights, right? Yep. But the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, you had the All-Stars, you had all of them in one night, and it was the middle of the season, and it mattered, and it was cool. Now, like the reason why they're doing this skills competition is because they're trying to squeeze blood out of a rock to make some sort of interest in this. Without getting the players killed, you know, because that's the other part about it. Like you're playing a football game with the biggest, strongest, and fastest dudes on the planet.
Best of the best.
Yeah, so you're going to potentially get killed. Now, obviously, they don't hit hard unless you're Sean Taylor. They're not hitting hard.
Sean Taylor. The soul, yeah.
And I mean,
what a punter!
Yeah, he just leveled the punter. I can't remember who the punter was, but yeah. Okay, I'm going to type in my number for the winner. It was 99, so Greg Tracy, you win. Greg, shoot me an email with what T-shirt you want from Homage and your size and your address to browniepostgame@gmail.com. I think you have my contact information. We've been emailing. So just email me the link to the shirt, your size, and your address, and I will have them ship that out to you. All right, so now for everybody else who's in here for T-shirt number 2, everyone else, give me a number between 1 and 100 now. Okay.
And there's a chance I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's not going to be 99. So
yeah, I'm not going to do 99 again.
We'll eliminate that now.
I like to go sometimes really I'll go like number 2. I'll go number 99 every once in a while. Sometimes I'll be in the middle. Sometimes I'll be like it'll be like a Browns star of the game number. Like try to throw everybody off, you know.
Well, it's funny because you say 99 and the first thing that comes to your mind is Wayne Gretzky.
Maybe like what J.J. Watts wears that number now, right? Not many people wear 99.
No, I gravitate right to Gretzky. That's like 66. You gravitate towards Lemieux.
Oh yeah,
those great guys that wore those.
Did Gretzky always wear 99? Did he wear 99 in when he was on the Oilers?
New York.
Or was he always was it
always 99?
I remember from the old NHL. Well, it started off like for any of you youngins in here. It started off as NHLPA hockey, 92 and 93, and then it became NHL 94, and then it was NHL 95 and beyond. And that was like the Sega and Super Nintendo hockey, right? And
NHL
Gretzky,
92.
NHLPA 92. It was the PA.
Yeah.
And that was before EA became EA Sports. They were EASN at that point.
Yep.
And then they turned into. But I had all the hockey that I knew. It's funny. I had a guy that I worked with who was a Canadian guy and big into hockey, and I just guessed that he was big into hockey. I didn't really know, and I was telling him I was like you're the Guy Lafleur of people I work with, and he lost it. He's like, I can't believe you dropped that. He's like, that guy, I loved that guy when I was growing up. He was my hero growing up. So we became he was like one of the regional directors. We became friends, and I was telling him, I was like, dude, I knew everybody in the league because of NHL hockey when I was a kid. I knew every team, every player, what their ratings were, and yeah.
I can't remember if it was 92 or 93. I think it was 92, but Tony Amonte on the Rangers. He was a rookie that year, and he was a tank in that game. Like you could give Tony Amonte the puck at center ice,
Mm-hmm.
and he would just railroad people, and you'd score with him. It was intense. Like I would go between the Rangers and the Islanders, and if I was the Rangers, I would just I never forget this one. There's one of my roommates back in college that year. Man, he would get pissed. I would break to Amani, break, score.
Yeah, I usually played as the Boston Bruins back then with like Ray Borg and Adam Oates.
Oh, yeah, Ray Borg. Oh
Andy
my God,
Moog.
Ray Borg that was. Tell me, Ray Bork was the one that you would wind up and hold it, and he would hit a slap chip, and if he missed, that thing would go around the boards and be at the other goalie in like 2 seconds. Like it was almost like a glitch of the game. Remember?
Yeah, and they had those two like little panes that were behind of glass that were behind the thing that you could, like, one of them you could shatter the glass. So Ray Bork used to shatter that, and Joey Juno and all this stuff. Okay, so here's the number, guys. Here's the number for the winner. It was 47. No particular reason why it was 47. It just was. Closest to that looks like it's Chad Tucker. So Chad, same thing. Send me a congratulations. You win a free homage T-shirt. I think they're usually doing some crazy sales during the offseason and stuff like that. But most of the shirts are like $32, and they cover shipping. So and they're awesome. I'm wearing one right now. I got my little H with my Factory of Gladness brown shirt.
Was it? It's Gladness.
Factory, yeah, it does say Gladness on the bottom. But yeah,
we're sort of in between now.
Yeah, I'm like, it's Factory of something.
It is right now. It is.
Yeah. So congratulations, Chad. Send me that email with the link to the shirt, your size, and your address, and I will have them send it out to you soon. Michael Johnson, don't worry, man. Like, we give out these shirts pretty much every time we go live, and we will have plenty more opportunities for you to win in the future. So make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Everybody who's in chat right now, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the notification when we go live. There's going to be obviously, there's not a ton going on right now in Brown's world. We're just trying to get our GM situation sorted out. We're trying to get our defensive coordinator situation sorted out. I don't know, Mike, did you catch the Ben Axelrod article about how the 49ers are trying to keep Woods?
It did, but I think that I think we're good. I've heard from several different places that that he's coming. We'll see. I mean, nothing's ever set in stone, but I mean, Salah is not going anywhere, and Woods worked with Stefanski in Minnesota, so I think he's coming. I don't think there's a worry about him. I'm more worried about what's going on the offensive side. I mean, worst case scenario, I think Stefanski calls the plays. I mean, he may still. We don't know. But I think really,
it's a mistake for him to do that.
Yeah, I let's just put it this way. I'll feel much more comfortable if we're able to get Mike McDaniel or LaFleur, the two Mikes. I don't think that. I think it's going to be tough to get one. I think it's impossible to get both, because I believe they're both still under contract. I've heard conflicting reports about. I think it's about McDaniel. One of them. I can't remember which one, but that one of them, their contract might be up. Then I've heard their contracts are not up. So I don't.
To be honest, I don't know. I don't know anything about either of them. And oftentimes with the assistant coaches, they're like, hey, until you become a Brown, I usually don't focus too much on the assistant coaches. I'm more concerned. I'm less concerned about who gets brought in than the type of organization that's built around that. My dad and I have talked about this in length. Had conversation about Quincy about this as well, Quincy Carrier, and I just think as a first-year head coach, you're biting off so much. You got to manage all the players, all the stars, all the personalities. You got to manage all your coaches. You got to manage the front office, the ownership. You got to manage the fans and the media. You got to manage the game, right? The clock and all that. You got to manage. You got to set the schedules and make sure people are in meetings. And you're juggling. You're just juggling a billion different things. And on top of that, you are now going to take on the responsibility. You're taking on a second job, essentially, an offensive coordinator. So you got to set the strategy. You got to then execute that strategy in real time with all these other things that are happening that you're responsible for.
Now, the one good thing that he's got going for him is Freddie set the bar really low at that.
He
being
did,
able to do that.
but here's my thoughts on it. That if you are a first-year head coach and you hire an offensive coordinator and things don't go well, you can always go, okay, guys, things aren't going well. I'm going to now take on the responsibility of offensive coordinator, and it buys you a little bit of time. If it doesn't go good with him, then he has to do what Freddie was unwilling to do, is give up the responsibility of calling plays, thus making him appear, at least, I don't know, in his mind or maybe in the organization, as just a weaker individual running the show. So I was really hoping that Stefanski was going to go out and get like a Kubiak, a guy that he likes, that he got along with, who's got a head coaching. I mean, everything said good things. I was hoping we were going to keep that connection going, and we haven't. We don't have a defense coordinator. We don't have a general manager. And
now, an interesting. Did you see? Not to interrupt you. You did see who was in the building today, right? Ben McAdoo.
Yeah.
McAdoo, the old
What are your thoughts on that?
If I remember correctly, OBJ had some of his best years or his best production under McAdoo. I know that McAdoo was the coach when OBJ attacked the net, and McAdoo had some choice conversation, we'll say, for him. Mm-hmm. But I think they get along. He was a quarterback coach in Green Bay for a couple of years, so I think. Look, if he came in as an offensive coordinator, I don't think that he would be horrible. The one problem that I would have, and before I go where the problem is, I guess someone like Ben McAdoo checks the boxes that you're looking for in terms of a guy that has some experience. He's been a head coach. He's been an offensive coordinator, been a quarterback coach. So even though he didn't have that much success in New York, at least it's a guy that Stefanski could lean on, so to speak. But like the elephant in the room is when Baker was coming out in that draft, and I'm ad-libbing here, but basically McAdoo said that Baker was a short pocket passer with small hands, and it wasn't essentially his cup of tea. So there's that.
Well, that's not good.
But that's not good. That's not good at all. So I don't know if it's water under the bridge, and hey, I was wrong, and whatever. And I mean, we don't know why he was interviewing, whether it was an OC or a quarterback coach job. Yeah. But like I said, he checked the boxes for you that you're looking for. For me, I would love one of the Niners guys. I mean, you see what their offense does. Both of those guys actually have coached with the Browns several years ago. Wow. LaFleur and McDaniel. So they're familiar with the building, if you will. But I'd be happy with one of those guys. If it was McAdoo, again, at least we've got that veteran presence that, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, they're running Stefanski's offense. So, I mean, it's, it is what it is, 6 in one hand and a half dozen in the other. But
right. Well, it comes down to, like, are we going to do the same thing that we did with Freddie? Are we going to hire an offensive coordinator and just neuter him from day one, and then if things don't go well, is that offensive coordinator going to bitch and moan and go over to the sideline and tell everyone that it's a mess, like apparently Todd Monken was doing. And I think the more telling thing that's going on here that I'm more concerned with is that it doesn't appear that we really have a plan, right? You have this entire offseason, and you interview everybody under the sun, everybody who is available. You end up hiring Kevin Stefanski, who, okay, I'm not gonna. I've changed my tune on him a little bit, right? I mean, when I was first very upset. If you could watch the video, I was very upset. My initial reaction was of utter disappointment, thinking that the Browns blew it again, not hiring McDaniel. Then some of the things that were coming out was that McDaniel wanted to make sweeping changes to the roster. If he was going to try to bring in Tom Brady for a year, do something like that, and just completely just gut the Browns and what we've the foundation of what we set up, which I do still think we have a good core, a really good young core, right? So blowing that up would have been a mistake. And I don't know if Josh McDaniels meant he was going to blow up the roster or blow up the front office infrastructure, and I would have been fine with that. But yeah, I've come around a little bit on Stefanski. I've listened to his interviews. I read the AMA he did on Reddit. He seems like a nice guy. He seems like he's fine. But the problem I have with it is you go through all this, you get another first-year head coach who's never been a head coach at any level. So he hasn't. It's not like, and I'm not saying that we need to go get a retread who's failed or been average in the past, like a Jim Schwartz who's just been like well below mediocre. I'm not saying we got to do that, but there are other guys who are head coaches who have had success at some level of organized football. We decide not to go with them, so we learn nothing from the Freddie Kitchens. We don't now also have a plan on who's calling the plays and who's are we even going to have an offensive coordinator. We don't have a defensive coordinator yet who is, again, who's been... I'm not sure if Wood's been a defensive coordinator before. I don't know. But we don't have a GM.
I believe he was with Denver.
Yeah. For some reason, I think he might have been. And I don't know how good they did.
He wasn't great, but he was serviceable. One of those who'll probably learn from his mistakes the second time around, kind of thing.
He's got talent. I mean, he's got talent. He's got when they were saying, like, we were thinking about retaining Steve Wilkes, I was like, oh, that's not a good sign. That is like, and you know what's crap, funny? We have nothing else.
Like with Wilkes, I could see from his cupboard was bare the whole year. There's no doubt. We lost a whole secondary early in the year, and then obviously what happened with Miles, but all that zone and I mean, you've got man corners, and that is their thing. That's their bread and butter. So, from that standpoint, I was happy that we didn't retain him because, I want a guy that's going to come in, and that's Joe Woods. He plays man defense in the secondary. So that's something that I'm excited for. And at the same time, don't sleep on the fact that maybe Wade Phillips might come in as an advisor. We don't know, but there's a tie there as well.
Yeah, I'd actually prefer Wade Phillips as an advisor, like maybe assistant to the head coach type thing, than actually being a coach. I think just Wade Phillips' time has passed. He had his time as head coach twice. He's had his time as defensive coordinator. He couldn't get any of those teams over the finish line. Had his most recent shot with the Rams. He's not a bad coach. He's just not something that's revolutionary. And I think that, you know what I'd like to see? I'd like to see us go young with our coaches. I'd like to see us go, if we're going to do something like this, like let's go after and get that young Belichick coaching staff that everybody went on to successes other places, or at least got other jobs and made more money in other roles other places. Let's go get that young Marty Schottenheimer coaching staff that the team can get around, everybody can get excited about, and let's see if we can make that happen. What I'm not interested in, and what I'm really concerned about, is the fact that it doesn't appear that Haslam has none of this seems prescriptive. It seems very reactionary. And I don't trust DePodesta. I didn't trust Sashi Brown. I don't trust Andrew Barry. Right? So that's the GM, the big GM candidate everybody talks about. Andrew Barry was part of the Sashi Brown. He was part of the 1-31 era of the Cleveland Browns. And we get rid of John, and I'll tell you this, I almost never agree with Aaron Goldhammer. I find him very off-putting, and don't listen to him anymore. But I will tell you that I saw a tweet. I don't even follow him. Just the people I follow were talking to him, and the algorithm must have showed up on my stream. He made a good point. He's like, we got rid of the guy. We fired the guy that brought in the most talent that we've had in Cleveland since we've been back. Easily since we've been back. Now, it hasn't turned into wins yet, but at least the talent on the field is you cannot argue we have more talent now than any other year. And we get rid of him. Don't allow him to be involved in the next coaching hire because there's a power struggle between DePodesta and Dorsey. And we're trying to backtrack to this Sashi Brown era Ivy League brainiacs who haven't resulted in wins in their given roles. And that's the challenge for me. I'm sitting there and I'm like, why are we going back in time? Now, everybody might prove me wrong. And the good thing about this is the expectations are real low now. I'm not going in with like Avengers hype videos next year. I don't know. Maybe I might get excited about it. Maybe make some cool. I actually got a little bit inspired this morning when I was listening. I was like, I can make a good.
Even as down as you may get, you're always good for a hype video, no matter what.
Yeah, I get inspired by I'll listen to a song and I'll be like, like Top Gun song, like the new Top Gun, or like the Star Wars thing. And I'm like, oh, dude, I got to make a hype video around that. So I'll probably will, but
you will.
I'm not as excited as I was last year. I don't think anything could match the excitement we had going into last year.
Now it's funny. So where you are, I'm the opposite. So
Okay.
it's kind of fun.
All right.
So for me, Dorsey did bring in some talent. There's no question about it.
Mm-hmm.
He did see some of it go out the door as well that I didn't particularly care for. And the drafts were, except for the obvious picks, I thought the drafts were hit or miss for me. But I think the telling thing for why he had to go was just the way at this point it's evident that last year's coaching carousel, or not even carousel, but coaching search, I guess you would say, was a sham.
Yeah.
Because Dorsey wanted his puppet. And really, in hindsight, when you see Stefanski talk and you see what his offense brought this year, you could think back and say, man, if he was the guy last year, where would we have? I mean, I would go out on a limb and say we're 10-6 and we're on the cusp. We either make the playoffs or we don't. And I know that's a big 180 there, but I really feel that way. So I think that Dorsey and Tony and I have talked about it on the Lone Dawg podcast. Tony was funny because he's at Papa Kelch if everybody's listening out there, but he was banging the door for the Dorsey dilutes the coaching search. And at first I really didn't have a thought on it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And the more we talked, the more it made sense, and he truly did, and we saw because they got rid of him. Mm-hmm. But I think that a lot of his antics, if you will, grew old, and he thought that let's face it, he controlled the game day roster too. There was no doubt about it that Freddie wasn't making those calls, and then you heard some of the stuff that Monken talked about and what have you. So for me, I was okay with Dorsey going, and I was okay with the clean slate. Now, from where we are today, Stefanski, I'm okay with it. I was like you. I was, McDaniels all the way, and then, they hired Stefanski, and I was like, all right, well, I really like his offense. It's tailor made for Chubb and Baker, and all that stuff started coming out about McDaniels and all the leaks and what have you. And I thought, man, what we really did is we dodged a bullet. I thought.
Yeah, potentially.
And then, yeah, so then we got into the GM portion of the hiring, and I'll admit it, I was a little bummed. I was hoping for a Peyton Stefanski marriage, but because I like what he's done with Spielman in Minnesota. But I guess at the end of the day, we don't know what these guys are going to do until they're actually in the job. Now, am I as excited about Andrew Berry as I am Peyton? No, I'll be honest with you, I'm not. But at the same time, it's not like, and I get it, Berry was there with Sashi, and they went, 1-31 or whatever it was. But it was my understanding that he really didn't have anything to do with the actual draft picks per se. But it's,
which is a pretty weird thing for a vice president of player personnel.
Right. So and if you look back at that whole organizational structure back then, I mean, it was fragmented. That's why we're sort of where we are today. But I mean, Barry played 4 years. I mean, it was what, at Harvard.
Yep.
And he won awards while he played. I think 3 of the 4 years that he was there. So he knows football. I think sometimes, and you tell me what you think, and I'll end my long-winded spiel here, but I think a lot of times, yeah, the GM is the guy that is in the forefront, and when these draft picks are made, they're the guys that are like, oh man, what a pick by Ernie Accorsi or whoever.
Yeah.
But I think the real stars are your scouting team, because they're the ones that gather all the data and they present it to the general manager and the coach, and then collectively then they figure out who they're going to take. So I'm not so worried about, is Barry going to, with the 10th pick, is he going to wind up taking like a wide receiver and he's not going to take the obvious offensive tackle? I don't worry about that. I think we're okay. Now, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, because Andrew Berry didn't sign anything and we haven't heard anything in days. So,
yeah,
we assume that he's the guy, and if he is, I'm okay with it. But hey, I mean, it's not signed, sealed, and delivered. I mean, he could get a taste in his mouth where, this played out almost looking like, George Payton had the job, and then he backed out because he didn't want to leave Minnesota. And I took a lot of grief today about this, but I still believe that Spielman's got a year left, and Payton said, hey, me and my wife, the kids, we love it in Minnesota. I'd miss it. I don't know if I'm ready to make that jump right now, especially with Spielman only a year left. Maybe this job could be mine and I could have the best of both worlds. And he didn't take the job. I almost feel like that job was his, but he just couldn't. He just couldn't. He felt better staying in Minnesota, and he did. And now here we are. And I don't know that for a fact, but I mean, it sort of feels that way,
Well, you can extrapolate a lot from, I think, if you are just paying attention, because I mean, he's got a family, he's got stuff going on, right? And you're typically, your wife is gonna play a part in that decision as well. And if he's going to have other potential GM spots open, especially in a place like Minnesota where he's happy. I've personally never been to Minnesota, so I don't know anything about the state of Minnesota, but seems like if you're comfortable with cold weather, then, it's a good place to be.
They say it's a beautiful place to raise a family, they say.
Yeah. I mean, I think the closest I've been is like Wisconsin, I think. And some of the nicest people on the planet are in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
So really nice
Absolutely.
people. So maybe they looked at it and go, dude, this is an unstable position. We got these nerds making decisions here. Look at a guy like John Dorsey, who was the king of the world, and they got rid of him after 2 years. We're gonna uproot our life and our family. with all this pressure that's going to come on in a completely risky, just weird environment. So, I mean, maybe he didn't. And then Andrew Barry's going to be sitting there going, you know what? Hey, guys, I've been around. I know how this works. And I know that I wasn't your first pick. And I don't know how I feel about that. You know, so if you're willing to pony up some do-re-mi and also guarantee me certain power privileges when I'm there, maybe that's the negotiating tactic, because he kind of has more leverage now, because he knows he's like, well, I'm the guy, right?
Yeah, they love him. They love him in Philadelphia.
And I can
can tell you right, they don't want to lose him.
Yeah. And you look at, you know, what they're saying about Woods in San Francisco, they don't want to lose him. And but one thing I'll tell you too about Stefanski that I thought was really kind of interesting, going back to the point you were making earlier, that if we had Stefanski, we're probably a 10-6 team. You know, I like the things he was saying. He was like, "Hey, look, out of the gate in the NFL, you're 8-8. You know, every team basically has the talent to be 8-8. It's about your execution. A low end success in his mind is 10-6. High end success is well into the double digits. I happen to agree with that philosophy, and I think that that's a good bar to shoot for. This is going to be a very interesting time for us Cleveland Browns fans and team and everything, because this could go down as the hire we've been waiting for, because I mean, he's got the brain power to make it happen. He's got some of the success, albeit not a very long tenure of it, but it could go down. I mean, I think he's a better coach than Pettin, than Chudzinski, than Shermer, than Mangini, than Crennel, although Crennel had that one good year, than Freddie Kitchens. I mean, going back 10, 15 years, this could be the most, I'll tell you, if nothing else, he's got the most potential. Personally, I wanted Mike McCarthy. He was my first pick. Josh McDaniels was my second pick. This guy was somewhere around third or fourth. But
you know what's funny though? So let's say you had him third on your list, right?
Okay.
So what I find really interesting, and you have to wonder, like, are the stars finally aligning for us? Because the McDaniels thing, you and I both liked him, and then everything started coming out in the back end, and you're like, oh man, we dodged a bullet there. Like, that just would not have worked. And then you look at McCarthy, and I was a McCarthy McDaniel, one of the mix. That was my battle cry at first. But then you looked at his introductory press conference when they asked him about, hey, so you know, you went back and you watched all the 2019 film, and I don't know if you saw that clip. And he came out and said, well, I didn't actually watch all the film. Like, I was trying to get a job, guys. And you could sort of see that look on Jerry's face, like, wait a second. I mean, we had a sleepover. So then it was like, you know what? That was all BS. He was in that barn, like, just for that segment. And then they all went their merry way. So I feel like we dodged the bullet of our 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And 3 is the guy. And what I find really interesting is that how crazy will it be, right? If Stefanski's the guy, and I'm not even saying he brings us a Super Bowl. Let's just say he's the guy. Next year we make a wild card, or you know, we're 10-6 and we almost make a wild card, and let's say we go on like a couple of playoff runs.
Okay.
The only reason we were able to have him as a do-over was because we hired a guy that probably would have had a hard time going 10-6 coaching a Pop Warner team.
Yeah.
So isn't it weird how that works? Like, if he is successful, it's all because we somehow got a do-over.
Yeah, it's certainly not us going from like Bill Walsh to George Seifert. You know,
no,
it's certainly not that sort of situation in Cleveland. Yeah, I think you're right. But it's almost like if this turns out to work, it's going to almost be by accident. I will tell you that. Because Kevin Stefanski walked in there and was like, all right, this is my job now. Great. When do we get started? He didn't walk in there like, we have changes to make. It's got to start now. I need the sense of urgency happening now. So I think, it was funny. I had my buddy Corey on, and we're talking about creating like a Vikings post-game type show for him. No, my friend Corey Johnson, who he's a big Vikings fan.
Corey from our fantasy, no, not fantasy league. Corey.
No. Oh yeah, it was Corey from fantasy league. Yeah, it's Corey. Yeah. So
is he still sad about his defeat in the championship game?
No, he's fine with it. Because didn't you guys like cut up the winnings or something like that? He's like, well, I split it anyway.
I got eliminated the week prior.
Oh, I think he ended up splitting the pot anyway. So he's like, I sort of won.
All right, he was okay because he was talking mad smack, and then who I can't remember who won, but he it was funny. Anyway,
he's a great guy. He knows a lot about football, and I had him on to talk about the Vikings because he's a diehard Vikings fan, and I wanted to get the down low on Kevin Stefanski because I feel like from this channel perspective, we get a lot of people watching these videos and all that kind of stuff, and like if we can give back a little bit of directly from a Viking fan perspective. And, I will tell you, I'll give you guys kind of the highlights really quick. The thing that Corey was saying is, I asked him directly about Stefan. Like, did you ever turn on the game on Sunday and just have that overwhelming feeling of fear that you're going to have 15 penalties in the game? And he's like, no. I'm like, did you ever feel like you were only going to have 9 guys on the field on an offensive play? Or that we're going to get some weird-ass, like, illegal shift twice in a game. All right? And he's like, no. So the thing I will say about...
we were winning right at that point, right?
Yeah, I mean...
That's a win right there.
We're not beating ourselves, right? So I think that's the one good thing that he had to say. He's like, no, he's not... He's not a brilliant... we're not going to have the Kevin Stefanski offense, like that's named like the West Coast offense. It's not going to be that. But he's not going to be a guy like Freddie Kitchens who, can barely tell it's Sunday or spell the word Sunday, right? So that, I think, is a very positive sign for us that at least we have a guy who can read at a sophomore level and who can put together a game plan. We'll see how the Stars, how they react to him, the Bakers and the Odells and Jarvis and those guys. A couple other things that are big. So between now and the start of the season, we obviously got to get this coaching staff put together. So let's get moving on that, guys. Get this coaching staff put together.
Scenario, I think by next Wednesday, we are.
Fair.
Or I should say the Wednesday after, we should be good.
Yeah. So let's get a coaching staff together. Let's get a general manager named. All right. Let's hire a general manager. Hire your damn staff.
Maybe that could be tomorrow.
Fine, great. Let's do it. Like I'm whenever. Let's go, guys. Come on. We have positions to fill. Okay. Let's get them filled. Let's get Myles Garrett. And we're just going to answer Myles Garrett. Are we going to have him for the beginning of the damn season? Are they going to hold him out for a whole nother season? Like, what's going on with Myles? Come on, NFL. Like, let us know, please.
Yeah, and I think he's good. I think by them letting him back in the facility to train, I think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to have one of those bogus go meet Goodell in New York, and bygones will be bygones. You know what's sad, Mike, is that. It was such an egregious act, right? That Sundays, one after the other, after that event, I saw a lot of that helmet swinging for promotional purposes, if you will. So if it was so egregious,
ESPN commercials and like, well, coming up next, we're gonna break down Myles Garrett swinging a helmet at a guy.
Like, why are you gonna show that? Like on CBS pregame, like it's just, if that happened on 1 o'clock on a Sunday, it would have been a footnote. but unfortunately for us, it happened.
It was on prime time with 8 seconds left in a game that we won. That ended up playing a pretty significant role in us and how we perform for the rest of the year, and what is now going to shape the trajectory of our future now that our head coach and general manager and front office has basically been turned over. And you could really go back to one moment that was the beginning, the big bang that created where we are today. You could really point to that helmet swing. And
you want to laugh?
Yeah, please.
I literally, at the time, so my thought process at the time, we'll get there real quick, but today it's like, man, that helmet swing might have been like a blessing in disguise, because they may have rattled off some games and we wouldn't have totally known the horribleness that was Freddie Kitchens as a coach. But anyway, long and the short of it is, I have never went through a 2.5 day span of emotion like that.
Yeah.
You're talking, that was like, oh man, like we are making a push. Going to the airport, me and my wife just talking. We're in the bar before we hop on the flight, and we're talking to a Ravens fan who's like, oh man, you guys are going to take out the Steelers tonight, because we flew in that day.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys are going to take out the Steelers, and I'm worried about you guys, and yada yada. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just flying out there for the game, like to watch the game. Like I was going out there, and I was pretty confident that we were getting a W. Yeah. And then we manhandled them. Like finally, after all those years of being tortured essentially by the Pittsburgh Steelers, we were giving them a dose of their own medicine. And man, that stadium was rocking. I couldn't believe it. Like I'm flying back into Baltimore tomorrow, and we were kicking ass. And then the last 8 seconds happened, and I have never felt that way about a win in my life. That was the most odd time in my sports liking life.
Yeah.
Coming back, but then I just had to throw that in there.
I had a very similar experience. I mean, I was in a hotel traveling for work. We were doing our post-game show, about to go live. Super excited. I will go to we have like 30 seconds left of the game. I go to the bathroom. I come back. I'm like, Dad, we're going live. Get your computer. Let's go right away so we can get, we can just pick up right as the game goes off. And I'm looking, because they had the TV like literally right here against my face, because I'm right on. You know how they have the desks at hotels that are like right planted right up against the TV. And I'm sitting there, and I sat there and I just watched it. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, why would he do that? What's happening? And then we go live, and it was honestly like, it's like you got the wind knocked out of you, and and the family dog died, and you're sitting there and you're like,
all in one.
Everything was great a minute ago, and then the family dog just died, and you're like,
8 seconds. People can't even ride a bull for 8 seconds.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Kareem Hunt couldn't even smoke a joint in 8 seconds. If we're being honest. So it just, hopefully that. So we got to get coaches. We got to get Myles Garrett back. We got to figure out what the hell we're going to do in the draft and the free agency. We got to pick up an offense. We got to pick up at least one offensive lineman in free agency. We got to draft an offensive lineman with our first pick, and maybe even a second one somewhere in there too. Right, get some offensive linemen, get some depth, get some new uniforms coming out. This is gonna be cool. I'm hoping we get color rush type uniforms. I saw your, I don't know, were you talking about uniforms today on Twitter?
No, but was I think I might have joined in on a.
Yeah, some people were talking about uniforms today. So we got some stuff going on. Then we got the preseason, and then we're back at it in 8 months, whatever from now, 7 months, 8 months.
I'm looking forward to the draft. I think that the offensive tackle crop is just big, and
it is.
And I'm not being funny, like big guys, but like it's a big group of guys that are, I mean, you could get first round talent in the second round. That's how the plethora of guys,
It's deep.
and it really is. And to your point, I think that we could snag too early. I think that what I would like to, I'd love to get one of those young safeties early, like a Winfield Jr. But at the same time, you got a guy like Anthony Harris from the Vikings. That's a free agent that maybe he'd want to come over with Stefanski, and maybe you fill that gap that way.
I'm cool with
and
that.
And maybe a Rudolph might want to come. I mean, the big prize
Cool
or
with that.
prizes and the type it would be Hooper or Henry, one of those would be great. But I mean, if you could draft the kid from Notre Dame or Randy's son or even that kid from Dayton that really came on at the Senior Bowl, Troutman.
Yeah, I saw the highlights.
Yeah, like if you can get a young kid like that, third, fourth round, and then pick up a Rudolph, or if you're able to land a Hooper or a Henry, then obviously you go a different way then in those rounds. But
100%.
There's some really good sheriffs out there, some really good offensive linemen that are out there. There's some safeties, the tight ends. There's a bunch of them.
Stefanski said, he's like, look, I mean, somebody asked him, like, what are you going to do with the roster? And he's like, look, I mean, NFL rosters change. We're not going to have the same 53 men that came out last year. We're going to have a different roster. I mean, there'll be he's like, I like the core talent that we have here. I like those guys. So there's definitely a lot of great stuff to build around. So we'll see. I'm not quite ready to write off Njoku. I think Njoku can have a healthy, good season. We'll see. I am completely the offensive line, other than Treader and Batonia. I am completely ready to write all of them. Just take a big, shovel, like a snow shovel, and just shovel them right into Lake Erie and let them live there forever. I am
interested to see if we can make if Forbes is because they were really high on him. Now that was the last regime. I'm interested to see what kind of eval they might do on him. But to your point, I mean, you're talking about
for depth, fine.
Trevor. Yeah.
And, like Lamb too. I mean, like Lamb. Let's say if he's healthy, depth, fine. We need to get like bona fide starters, and I think that was the big lesson. Getting rid of Zeitler was a risky move, and I don't think it necessarily was a super positive one for us for a bunch of different reasons. But, all right, guys. Well, we've been at it for quite a bit here on Friday night. It is been at it for over an hour and 17 minutes. Give away a couple of shirts. Got the guys, again, everybody, thanks for watching the Patreon. Check out the Patreon if you want to have an even better chance at winning one of those t-shirts in the future and get your name listed in the bottom. If you happen to have a small business, or guys, if the people who are out there, who are in chat, who are constantly up there, if you happen to know anybody who's got a small business, a lawyer, an insurance guy, a real estate agent, these are the type of people that I want to try to help introduce to my audience, because some of these shows get quite a few thousand views. Others, whatever. But we'd like to try to expand and get, some of your friends or some people that get them a little bit of exposure as well. And pretty much in terms of cost per impression with the Brownie Postgame channel, with our Patreon links that you can do, it's pretty cheap to do. So go to patreon.com/Brownie Postgame. Support the channel if you can. And Mike Ristano, thank you very much. Lone Dawg Podcast. You can find him on Twitter as well at Bonzo1273. MR2. Just type in Ristano. You'll see the Lone Dawg header and the Baker Mayfield caricature looking dude. That's Mike on there. Very, very active on Brown's Twitter.
I always want to change that, but I've had it up for so long that I'm like,
it's tough, right? It's like your brand.
Yeah, it's tough. It's like it is. It's like that's my thing now. But
yeah, my
anyway.
my picture doesn't have anything to do with the Browns. I don't have I'm not wearing a Browns hat or anything. It's just my it's just my face, black and white. But I'm like, that's kind of my brand. Like people know that
Right.
by now, and that's what it's been for years. So I'm not gonna change it now.
Yeah, I can't take it off, but it's always a great time to come on with you.
Yeah, man.
I like to be, when Pop's not able to get in, I love sliding in and helping you guys out. It's always a good time. Good friend of mine, obviously. So
Yeah, man. I
anytime.
appreciate you coming on. I feel like you're part of the Brownie post game family of friends of the program and special guests appearances. So until towards the end of the year, you're in my show when we did after the Ravens game was the most viewed after show. Yeah, that was a great one. God, if
We thought we were. We thought. We remember that?
yeah,
Oh
we're
my
like,
God,
we're winning 15 games this year.
Forget it. Forget about it.
Dude, it was great. That was
Never lose.
that I look at that and I was like, if we could just win more games, how fun it will be to do the after shows, and really that was the whole thing. It was about the whole season was like more a lot 10. Actually, we only did 9 negative after shows. The second Ravens after show, I couldn't even do it because I was like clinically depressed after that second Ravens game. So I was like, we're not doing it. I'm not doing it, Dad. I can't. It's going to be another day where I'm just going to like really just. Chad needs info, LOL. It's Chad Tucker. Great show, guys. Okay, Chad, hold on. I'm sorry. Here, Brownie.
That's funny too.
Game at Gmail.
Before that game, we were even talking about. And there was this. The elation, and then it was like somebody pulled the stopper out of the drain, and then that was the end.
Yeah, dude, that was it. But I have a feeling next year we're going to have a lot more of those fun times. And we will have you back on once I figure out how to have more than 2 people on the show at any given time. And also, I'd be happy to come back on. I'll just invite myself back onto the Lone Dawg Podcast. And we'll do that.
We would love to have you.
All right, cool. So Chad, you got my info. You got the stuff. And yeah, and who else won? Greg? Coming around. Gary. Can't remember who won the first one. So. It was.
If you said the name, I know.
It was Chad Tucker, the first one, and the second one. Well, either way, they know who they are. So guys, send me those emails so I don't have to go back through chat and remember who it was, and we'll get your t-shirts and good to go. And thank you guys very much for watching the show. Appreciate it, Mike, as always, and we'll see you next time. Go Browns.
Go Browns.